YouTube as well. And if once everybody is ready, we can start.
Yeah, sure. We'll admit the people now. So just a protocol wise, if any questions are there, they can put on the chat, right? And one of us will pick up and give it to you, to the moderator.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And Girish, you led that.
People are logging on YouTube as well.
Yes.
And if one YouTube, it is being streamed on JITO as well as Oshwal UK.
Yeah. So we'll share the link to Ashish now. Suraj, can you share the link on the WhatsApp when you're ready? And I'll start this.
Can you just check on the same link? I think we are on the same link. If you just check on YouTube, because I can see on my phone, it's working. We are
okay.
Live.
It's 2 o'clock. Can we allow all the participants to join, please?
And Girish, can you do the normal?
Yeah, I'm admitting all, Girish. Is that okay?
Yeah.
We already have 100 plus.
Suraj, if you can play the video, that'd be good. Can we do automatic admin now for everybody?
ये एरो है ना इस पे बस एरो है इस पे
Kiran bhai, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Girish, are you saying a few things to just
Yeah.
for chats and questions, etc.?
Yes. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. We've already got more than 130 participants now. We are all eagerly waiting for to hear Dr. Dipak Jain and other speakers as well. Just to reiterate the house rules, we've got few moderators who will be keeping an eye on the chat windows. So please put your questions there, or whenever speakers or moderator asks for them. You can keep putting the questions on the chat window. We will pick it up and pass it on to the moderators. So that's how we can make it interactive. And we may have to mute if you are not already mute during the session, if there is a lot of noise coming in. The other thing, we will be recording this session. So this is just from the regulation perspective to let you know. The session has been recorded and all participant details are being shared with within the JITO UK management group. Okay, I will now let this start with Kiran Mehta, our JITO UK chairman. Please, Kiran bhai, do you want to take over?
Yeah. Thank you, Girish. Jai Jinendra, good afternoon. A very, very warm welcome to you all, and a massive thank you and welcome to Dr. Dipak Jain, our keynote speaker. I'm sure he'll be introduced a little later on, but I personally heard him some time back, actually, in New Jersey at an event. I think there was 5,000-6,000 people there at the time. Pin drop silence, but he was fantastic. It's also fantastic that we have organized this event in collaboration with Oswald Association UK and JVB. But today's proceedings will start with the blessings of respected Samniji, and may I request them to recite the Naukar mantra.
Samnijis.
May I request you all, close your eyes gently, fold your hands in prayer pose. Namaskar Mahamantra. Om Reem Namo Arhantanam. Om Reem Namo Siddhanam. Om Reem Namo Agyariyanam. Om Reem Namo Uvajjayanam. Om Reem Namo Loe Savvasagunam. Eso Panchanamukaro Savvapavapanasano Mangalanam cha Savvesing Padhamam Havai Mangalam. Padhamam Havai Mangalam.
Kiranwandami Samniji, and thank you very much. It's always good to see you and have your blessings. Right. I will now very briefly share about JITO. JITO UK is called Jain International Trade Organization. It commenced some 12 years ago in India and is well established in India. Internationally, it has 13 chapters, which are evolving at different speed and magnitude. Many new chapters are being launched now. Recently, it's been launched in Bahrain. Tanzania and Paris are planned, and I think they're happening tomorrow. So this provides a great platform for connections for those who intend to do business or for any other reason to connect with Jains all over the world, and not only in UK, but also all over the world. There are many examples where, certainly during COVID-19, there has been contacts made with each chapter to help out people locally. Regarding JITO UK chapter, this was established some 4 years ago. And we have 3 main objectives: education, economic empowerment, and seva. To be honest, the UK has a very strong community culture with many, many good communities, which provide very strongly in the field of education and seva opportunities. JITO UK's primary focus is economic empowerment and has had 12 events in the past, particularly related to current and different topics. Since COVID-19, we have done on average 1 webinar every month on a very relevant or very different topic. So we're in the process of also organizing online networking event for members. That should come through within the next month or 2. And later on, we'll provide details of the next event. So thank you for that. Now I'd like to invite Tushar Shah, who's been a very, very strong supporter for the launch of JITO and is ex-president of Oswald Association, to say a few words. Over to you, Tushar.
Thank you, Kiran Bhai, and Jai Jinendra, everybody. I won't duplicate the words that Kiran Bhai just said about JITO. He's already explained to us about JITO, but I'll just share with you a brief history of how JITO started. JITO, well, I met 2 doctors, Dr. Manoj Malu and Dr. Naren, just over 4 years ago at a function, and they started talking about JITO, and it intrigued me so much, and they wanted to launch JITO here in UK, a branch of JITO India. So things got talking from there, and I'm very pleased and aware, actually quite honored that we paired up with JITO at the time, the body, and we helped launch JITO here in UK at Oswald Center. And since then, underneath the leadership of Kiran Bhai, Dr. Manoj Malu, and all the team behind him, you know, they've made some great strides. Of course, every country has its difficulties and different ways of working and thinking. But in the circumstances, I think this team has done some fantastic work. And it's very important for us as communities to support JITO, because JITO is a good complement to all communities. All communities are doing their own work, but JITO is a complement for all organizations. And I'm very pleased that Oswald has been linking up with JITO as and when it can, especially today as well. And we wish it every success. And of course, it is continued. And we all know the strengths of working together. I'm not going to repeat what those are, but we all know the strengths that we get when we all join hands, work together, and the empowerment that Kiran Bhai just mentioned about. It brings businesses together. JITO brings businesses, like-minded people of trading, business, ideas, where they can share ideas, exchange ideas, and it empowers everybody. Yeah? So it's important that we're going to support that. On a slightly separate note, I just want to add that Oswald Association tomorrow celebrates its 15th anniversary of the day that we built our Derasa. We have a Dhaja ceremony tomorrow at Oswald Center, Porter's Bar, where we're raising the Dhaja, the flag on the Derasa. That is a restricted event, unfortunately. Well, we all know why, because of COVID-19. But from 1:30 to 5:30 tomorrow, Our Derasa is open. Come and see it. We've extended the Derasa. It's a beautiful Derasa place for worship. Yeah, we would all like you to join us for tomorrow. And on top of that, Oshwal Association has launched a Jin Darshan book. It's a beautiful book. It explains, it's a bilingual book in Gujarati and English. It explains about all the rituals with pictures, all the sutras, all the pujas that we undertake and how to be undertaken, and kindly sponsored by the family of late Hansraj Bhai Devraj Shah, Sigma Pharmaceuticals, which you're all aware of. This book is available to every Jain out there. There is no cost, so please come and pick up a book as well. But come to Oshwal Center for some darshan tomorrow. So that's a short note from Oshwal. Finally, I take this opportunity, of course, Dr. Rajesh Jain, I've heard a lot about him. I've not heard him, but I've read a lot about him. So we look forward to his as our keynote speaker and the webinar today. So thank you, Kiran Bhai, Manoj Bhai, and all the team at JITO UK. Thank you.
Thank you, Tushar. That's very kind of you, and it's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah.
And perhaps, Tushar, if we can post on the chat box the link for tomorrow's event, it would be great. I know Ashish is here as well, so hopefully Ashish or Tushar can do it. Now, may I invest Mr. Pragnaben Damani from, hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You can hear me, yeah. Pragnaben Damani, a trustee for JVB, to say a few words.
Thank you, Kiran Bhai. Jai Jinendra to all, and good afternoon and good morning in USA.
Yes.
The trust.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So I'll start again. Jai Jinendra, good afternoon, and good morning from USA. I'm one of the trustees for JVB London. JVB London has been established since 2001, and recently 2017 we have bought our own place in Harrow. So we have got our own building, and we have got two Samnijis, Dr. Pratibha Pragyaji and Dr. Swan Pragyaji, who are present, established in London. And they are for all the community and not just for the JVB. Dr. Pratibha Pragyaji has done the PhD in Praksha meditation, and they are here to help 24/7 to everybody in the community. So it's my great pleasure to welcome the profound speaker, Dr. Dipak Bhai Shah from the USA. Dr. Dipak Bhai Shah is a world...
Dipak Bhai Jain.
Dipak Bhai Jain, Dipak Bhai Jain from USA. He's a world prominent management guru in Europe, and I would ask Rajesh Bhai Jain to say more in details about Dipak Bhai Jain. Thank you, Dipak. Rajesh Bhai, over to you.
Thank you, Pragnaben. A very happy good afternoon to everybody in UK. Good morning to Dr. Jain, and good evening to my friends in India and perhaps many other parts of the world. I always get the toughest job. I think it would be extremely challenging for me to put few words for Dr. Jain. I think his name suggests his credentials, and his credentials justify his name. That should be his introduction.
Never.
Now, in terms of the formal introduction, yes, Dr. Dipak Jain is the President and Professor of Marketing at China Europe International Business School. And I'm pretty sure if he speaks a bit loudly, people across the border will hear his voice. Before that, he was the director of Sassoon Graduate Institute of Business Administration in Thailand. And prior to that, he was Dean of INSEAD in France, with campuses in Paris, Singapore, and Abu Dhabi. Prior to that, he has worked as Dean for Kellogg School of Management, and he has been given various awards, including Outstanding Teaching Award in 1994, the Sandy and Morton Goldman Professors Award for Entrepreneurial Studies. He has been a very, very famous award-winning scholar and a writer. He has published more than 70 articles in leading academic journals. He has been also the recipient of Pravasi Bharati Award given by the Prime Minister of India. He comes from a very humble background. There is a very small place called Tejpur in Assam. Probably it becomes very difficult for me to explain where Assam is and then to identify where the Tejpur town is. But with that kind of humble background, he has reached to this height which speaks by itself. I'm sure he would be telling us more about his own journey. Apart from that, he's the director on board as an independent director with Reliance Industries in India, John Deere in USA. And prior to this, he has been on the board of United Airlines, Hartmax Corporations, People's Energy, and been consulting with the Fortune 100 companies worldwide, including Microsoft, Sony, American Express, Novartis, Nissan, and so on. I think the list can continue forever. With this small brief background, may I request Dr. Jain to kindly enlighten us on the topic of spirituality and business performance. I know we have been talking always in all the business schools about profit and planet and people, but spirituality is something wherein we would like to hear your keywords, sir. Over to you, Dr. Jain.
Thank you very much, Rajesh Bhai, for the introduction. First of all, let me offer my respect to Samni ji, and also thanks to Kiran Bhai and Tushar Bhai, and to all of you who are attending this talk. Before I start my formal thing, can you put the title of the presentation, Rajesh Bhai?
Yeah. Suraj, can you share the screen?
Yeah. The first one. Title. No. Shall I do it from my end, Girish?
While it is coming, let me just say something about the introduction. In the introduction, Rajesh Bhai mentioned that I grew up in a small town in Assam called Tejpur. And let me tell you the significance of this town. It was 1962, month of November, somewhere around the 18th of November, 1962. Some of you may recollect China attacked India. And when China attacked India, they came to India from the northeastern part, and their army moved within India through this area called NEFA, Northeastern Frontier Agency. Today it is called Arunachal Pradesh. So when the army, the Chinese army, moved through that part, the first plane after crossing the mountains, the first town that is a town, the area is called Bhalukpong, but the first civilized town is Tejpur. I was in kindergarten, 5 years old. I remember the morning very well. The teacher came to the class and said, the Chinese army is less than 50 kilometers from the school. The government of India has asked us to vacate the town by 7 p.m. This is around 11 a.m. in the morning. And we are trying to contact your parents to take you back home. And we all have to leave the town by 7 p.m. We as students at that time, anything when you hear there is no school, it gives you a thrill. You never knew what the purpose was. I remember my father came, we walked back home. On the way, we crossed the State Bank of India and the deputy collector's office. They were burning papers and currencies. And it was a chaos in the town. We reached home, and then in trucks, we left in the evening. In those days, there was no bridge on River Brahmaputra. So that night we had to wait on one side of the river. In the morning, we crossed the river with steamer. And then it took us almost 8 days to reach a town near Delhi called Rohtak, where my grandparents live. My grandfather was a school teacher. He taught for 49 years, 12 years as a teacher, and 25 years he was the headmaster of Jain High School in Rohtak. I tell you, this is November 1962. November 2017, one of those refugees was announced as the President European of China International Business School in Shanghai, and that refugee today is speaking before you. The same person who ran a refugee never thought that one day the Chinese government would appoint, and my appointment comes from the Shanghai municipal government, would appoint an Indian to head an institution in China. And I attribute this to 3 things. First is our parents' commitment to bring the children in the best possible way. Indian parents' first priority is बच्चों को कैसे अच्छी तालीम दी जाए. Sorry to speak in Hindi, but this is what I mean. The second is the Indian education system. I tell you, our education system, at least till college level, is very rigorous. Teachers are very committed, at least during the days I studied. And the third I really attribute in all speech I make is our Jain sanskars. The Jain sanskars that we grew up with is our biggest strength in this world. And given the commitment of parents, our Jain values or Jain sanskars and the Indian education system, I grew up in a town called Tejpur. There was no university there. So in order to do the university program, you had to appear as a private student through a local college. And I remember this was 1976, when some people one day came to see my father and said, Jain Sahab, have you seen the newspaper today? My father said, why do you say that? He says, your son topped the university with a gold medal in mathematics and statistics, and you should try to send him to study at IITs and others. Unfortunately, my father didn't have any resources. And somehow or other, I told my father, Bauji, we will just study in the same town. And aap log ka ashirwad hai, to we will all do well. I finished my graduation, and then for postgraduate studies, I had to go to a town near Tejpur called Guwahati. My father took me to the bus station, and first time he put me in a bus and told the bus driver that this boy does not know where to get down. So tell him when the university bus stop comes in Guwahati, he should get down there and not go to the main bus station, because from there the university is again 10 to 12 kilometers. I sat in the bus and never knew that the person who first had a bus ride in 1976 would one day become the director of United Airlines, the largest airline in the world. The point I want to make is everything is possible, but one thing that I want to tell people is never compromise on trying to get the best education, the best advice. But when people give you advice and people give you suggestions, follow it up to the full extent. Many people get advice, few benefit from it. People hear it and let it go. My success comes because the teachers who taught me, people who gave me advice during my career, ki kya karna hai, how to move forward, I respect those suggestions. And today after serving 25 years at Kellogg School, 12 years as a professor, 13 years in the Dean's office, then to be the Dean of INSEAD in Europe, then the head of the institution in Thailand, and that I got an invitation by the Royal Highness of Thailand. She came personally to recruit me to Chicago, and now in China. And I took the China job only for the emotional reason I told you. One other alternative I had was to be the Dean of MIT Business School called Sloan. I said no to Sloan because I thought that Sloan would be another like Kellogg. But to me, being in China was an emotional reason I articulated earlier. With that, what I want to emphasize today is how spirituality, and I would emphasize what I mean by the word spirituality, and success in business, and by business, I don't mean just the regular business or success in any profession. They are two sides of the same coin. It's not that if you are spiritual, you cannot be successful, and whatever it is, let me show you the framework that I have followed in my personal life. Can we go to the next one? So this is a very defining moment for me. This is April 26th, 2010. If one person in this audience is Shashi Jain, he's in Florida. And in Florida, in year around that time, we established a Jain professorship with the blessings of Samaniji Charitra Pragya ji, first time in the US, where we established a professorship in Jain studies. And we thought this would be a good way for us to bring Jain values, Jain principles to a broader audience. Shashi Jain said that, Dipak bhai, you have to come to Ladno and meet our Lord there, Mahapragya ji, and he is very much keen to meet you personally. We set up the date to meet him, but somehow or other, April 2010, some of you may recall, there was a volcanic eruption over this area where you see the Iceland. And all flights from US to go to Europe were cancelled because of the impending danger. So we kept trying and it didn't happen. But finally, I got an idea that there are other ways to go to India also. So I decided to take a flight from Chicago to Los Angeles and flew through Pacific side to Hong Kong to Delhi, and then from Delhi we took a car to drive to Jaipur, and from Jaipur we went to Laddo. This is the day when Acharya Shri and I had a conversation for about an hour and a half. And he says, I need your help to create something. His vision was what he called a wisdom world, a world of wisdom. Dekhiye, universities are where we give people knowledge. His idea was how you create a platform which is beyond knowledge, or what we call wisdom. And I will share more about this later on. I had never met him before. This was my first interaction. And he says, this is what I have in mind. He gave me his full views, and Acharya Shramanji was sitting next to him. Ye April 26 ki baat hai, 2010. That night I had to fly back to Chicago. I was the Dean of Kellogg and we had a meeting. As I came back, and I tell you, I think that was the last meeting he had. I think it was May 7th or so that year. His Holiness left us, and I still remember his blessings that I had just, I would say, 10 days before that. This was meant to be, because nobody would have, at that time we were planning that we will do a big thing on his 90th birthday and so on. But whatever it is, he was able to communicate what I would say his last wishes or his last lesson to us. And from that day, I thought that it would be good to promote what spirituality is to a broader audience. I remember I got an honorary doctorate degree from Florida International University, and my talk there was on this concept called spiritual entrepreneurship. So this morning, I offer my utmost respect to Acharya Shri and to everyone, all of you, where I was fortunate to get his personal blessings and his time. Next. Now I thought that let me share with you, yes, just leave it here for a moment. We will go one column at a time. So 2012 I was the Dean of INSEAD, and it was a very tough year for me personally. I was in Paris and I was diagnosed with brain tumor with cancer. For any intellectual, you cannot expect a worse disease where your key intellectual resource, the brain, gets infected. And I was advised by the doctor in France that to go to US because the tumor was between my speech and memory area. It was deep inside my brain. April 19th, 2012, I was operated. And the doctor who operated me, actually, the one other doctor who came on the operating table was a student of mine at Kellogg School. He did his executive MBA. He had retired as a neurosurgeon, moved from Chicago to San Francisco. But when he heard that I was sick, he flew that day to be at the operating table. The other doctor did the surgery, but he was just there to make sure that things went well. I recovered from it. But I tell you, as a teacher, your biggest assets are the students or the alumni you create. And I was blessed that I recovered. My speech came back, but I lost a lot of memory in this process. But while I was recovering, I started thinking about what has happened to global businesses over the years. And I always believe when you have to think big. So I gave a thought to what has happened in the world over the last 500 years. Of the last 500 years, if you see, the first 300 years, I have not thought beyond that. Can you put the first column? If you look at the first 300 years, the 300 years prior to the last 200 years, I would describe the business model as a model of colonialism. In those days, countries went and acquired other countries. We Indians were ruled by the British for almost 200 years. The players I would describe as countries. The metric was power. How powerful you are depends on how many countries you have as your colonies. And the impact was the strength. I remember in earlier days in India, there was a saying that the sun never sets on the British Empire, because Britain was the most powerful country in the world with having the maximum number of colonies. And that was the power of Britain. Then things started turning and another power emerged, which is United States of America. US got independence in 1776. And with the emergence of US, a new business model emerged. Can you put the second column? And that was the model of free market competition, what we describe as capitalism. A free market, you heard about Sir James when he, not James, Keynes, and the whole capitalism started, and now the needle shifted from countries to corporations. The corporations became the powerhouse. I am on the board of John Deere and Company, and we have celebrated 80 years of our existence. The oldest American company in the world happens to be DuPont, close to 190, 200 years. But what I would say that if you look at US businesses, you would see history of corporations that goes back to almost 200 years. And the last 200 years, these corporations, the metric they were driven by is I describe as profits, or you can call it share price, or whatever the financial metrics can be. And the more successful you are, is the more profitable you are, we define the impact is you are a successful organization. And today, MBA students would love to work for that. Where are we today in this 21st century? For the third column. This century I describe as a century of human capital, and I call this century a century of entrepreneurialism. If you look at the top companies today in the world, start with Microsoft, Bill Gates, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, Alibaba, Jack Ma. You look at Uber, you look at Airbnb. Today, the new ideas are not coming from large corporations. It's coming from citizens, individuals who are thinking creatively and then building a large corporations. In my lifetime, I remember in 1981-82, when Microsoft was almost nothing, I had a student in my class who went to work for Microsoft. And those were new names. And in my lifetime, I have seen companies like Microsoft, Zuckerberg, Apple, and others. They are the icons of the world. And whether it is Bill Gates or anyone, they basically have created a world-class institution. The metrics for these people have not just been profits. It's beyond profits, and I use a term called purpose. If you look at Bill Gates today, where is he spending his time? Trying to improve the quality of human beings. He and his wife, Melinda Gates, through the foundation, are trying to do work in different parts of the world with one objective. How can we have people in different parts live a quality life that we all have been blessed with? They are doing things in India, in Africa, in many parts, and that's what I describe as purpose. You heard Mark Zuckerberg said that he would donate 90 or 95% of his all wealth for such purpose. And to me, if you ask my view, the best days of this world is ahead of us. I'm a person with very positive thinking. I think the new generation, when I look at my children, they are not driven by money or the other materialistic desires because they grew up with abundance. When we were growing up, there was hardly anything to look forward to. Every day was a blessing. And one day over, we thought what we would do the next day. And that's why I described that the metric today is purpose and the impact is significance. By significance, I mean making a difference in the lives of people. So when I was the dean of the Kellogg School, every school has to come up with a theme, or in marketing, we call it what your brand stands for. And the branding for the Kellogg School I described was, by joining the Kellogg School, you start your journey from success to significance. So from success to significance was the brand of Kellogg. I used to tell the first day when I used to welcome the MBA class of 600 students, your first job in life is to become successful. Don't be an idealist that I have to solve the hunger problem in Africa or the poverty in different parts of India. First, build a successful platform. Show people that you are able to achieve the business success. Then while you are successful and you have achieved the ladder of success, start giving back or start your journey of significance, make a difference in the life of people. And for that, don't wait till you retire. The reason is the day you retire, from who's who, you become who's he. People respect the kursi or the chair. Do things when you have the power. The day you lose that power, no matter how great you were, people would not give you the same respect, the same recognition what you had when you were there. So my point is that in this generation, when I look at the new generation, and I have been teaching for 41 years, I am very hopeful that the new generation today would make a difference in the world if the political conditions are supportive. And I think as the power comes in the hands of this new generation, we will see lots of development in different parts of the world. Next. So today I want to talk about this concept of entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship doesn't mean that everyone starts their own business. Entrepreneurship to me is a spirit. In Hindi, I use the word called lagan, the determination that you have. It's a spirit where you want to do something on your own, and or you want to create something, you want to build something, but you want to put your personal energy into it. Now, how you define entrepreneurship, or what first I will say, what are the different types of an entrepreneurship? Let's start with one first. The common thing is business entrepreneurship. Now, it was not recently, I would say this started in the early 90s, when entrepreneurship became a course in business schools. I remember at that time we didn't have professors to teach that. So we used to bring successful entrepreneurs to come and teach a course. They were adjunct professors. And what they taught in the course was how you write a business plan. You have a very good idea, but the idea is only good when you can communicate that idea in terms of a business plan so that the investors can understand what your business model is, what are the sources of revenue, what are the sources of cost, and this business vocabulary was taught to students. Then we created a course on entrepreneurial finance. How do you get financing as an entrepreneur? You don't have a history to show. I at Kellogg School taught a course on entrepreneurial marketing. I used to call the course as marketing on a shoestring budget. When you have a very little budget, how you do good marketing. And I used to teach that course because, as was mentioned in my introduction, I had an entrepreneur give a chair to me called Sandy and Morton Professor in Entrepreneurial Studies. So I used to teach the students how you can do marketing without having much money. Again, what you need is the mindset and the drive. Money would come if people believe in your idea. So the business entrepreneurship is driven by creating successful business where you want to make profits. Eventually, either you sell the company to someone else or you take the company public. We have seen that from Microsoft. We have seen that from Facebook. You see that from many other such organizations, including Jack Ma's Alibaba. Next. Then during the late 90s, and I would say more in 2000, the second form of entrepreneurship came, which is social entrepreneurship, which was driven by how we have entrepreneurs who don't want just to create a successful business, but their aim is how we create a better society, or with the objective function is society welfare as opposed to just the profits for a firm. So the scope was bigger than just creating a successful business. Social entrepreneurs, or in business schools, we used to have a course called Public Not-for-Profit Management, and lots of social entrepreneurs came. I had in my class some social entrepreneurs. Today, they are very successful. They created very successful organizations. And again, social entrepreneurs also, you need to have money, revenue coming in, but the bigger purpose is from profits to purpose, and that is how we make a better society, better community, or better living for general people. And this is also, I got lots of money from people donated to Kellogg to build programs on social entrepreneurship. The third, and this is what I want to personally talk about, is spiritual entrepreneurship. Rather than creating a better business or better society, more important is how we create better human beings. जिसको हिंदी में इंसान और इंसानियत, how you create better people. And when I use the word spirituality, to me in spirituality, the two key words that I use are personal integrity and self-respect. Spiritual entrepreneurs would go for a business, but they would never compromise their self-integrity, even for a profit purpose, and their self-respect to just get some few extra dollars. So how you create better human beings, better mankind, and once you create better mankind, you create a better society and a better world. So spiritual entrepreneurship to me is more at a micro level and then building the blocks to create a better world. And I would elaborate on it more as we move along. And how spiritual entrepreneurship is not independent of the business and social entrepreneurship, but spiritual entrepreneurship to me is the start of the journey where you create good human beings. Next. So this is a framework that I have developed over the years, that when you look at any human being, our life is a combination of three concentric circles. The first one at the top is what I call genes. And this is something that we are born with. So you are born in a family. I was born in a Jain family. So I have in myself the Jain sanskar, the word genes, DNA, I would use the word sanskars. And that is something given to you. There is no giving up that, you are born there. The second circle on my left from here is what I call self. And self is your autoimmune system. This is who you are. A family may have 5 children, but very difficult to find 2 of them alike. Even if 2 are twins, you see very different behavior between the twins. This is you yourself. You have the sanskar coming from the family, but this is your own self or your own autoimmune system. Sometimes if you come from a family that has a history of diabetes, you need to know that you have a possibility of getting diabetes in the future because that is there in the DNA. So you need to be very cautious in terms of your behavior. And the third circle is, so self, in Hindi, I would call it swam, who you are. And the third is the external environment where you work. And this is, I describe as sangat, people you come across in your work. So if you are a human being, on a daily basis, you are influenced by the people you work with. You have your family traits or your Jain traits, whatever it is, depending on the quality of the family. And then you are. The most important thing that drives success in business is self-discipline. And self-discipline is important, and that discipline is driven by your genes, your parental advice that you grow up with, the quality of teaching you get, and how you don't get distracted by the external environment. Sometimes we as parents try to make sure that our children don't go into bad sangat or bad company. And I thought that I will just share a personal story with you. I have said this story many times, but I want to share with you once again because I want to listen to it. And excuse me, I will use a sentence in Hindi for a second. My father, at a very early age, he was born with only one eye. And at an early age, he lost his other eye also. So for a large part of his life, he was totally blind. And for some reason, I lost my mother in 1996. She was 62 years old. And my father passed away in 2008. So for a blind person to live without the wife, who is the biggest support for people in India at least, It was a very tough life. So I came in the dean's office in 1996. So after my mother passed away, I made a point that I want to go and see my father. And from 1998 to 2008, I went to see him every month for 1 day. On a Friday evening, I will come home, take the flight, a non-stop flight from Chicago to Delhi. From there, drive to Rohtak, see him on Sunday, Saturday night, reach there late, spend the day with him on Sunday, Sunday night, take the same flight back. Monday morning, 7:30, I was back in the office. All the years at Kellogg School, never, one day the flight was late and never missed a single class. Anyway, my father used to say one sentence. वो कहते थे कि बेटा, इंसान जीतता है अपनी औलाद से और हारता भी है अपनी औलाद के आगे. The translation is, it's the children that makes the parents successful, and it is if the children don't do well, that's when the parents feel a sense of defeat or a lack of accomplishment. So always when I used to see him, he used to tell me, just do your best and never compromise on your values. कहते थे बेटा मेरे पास और तुझको देने के कुछ नहीं है, but preserve what you have and do respect people you work with and you work for. It was 2008. My father was very sick. That month I made a trip every week. And this was my last visit. I came to, he was in ICU. And the phone rang. So I went out of the ICU. I picked up the phone. I spoke to the person. I came back to the ICU. My father asked me a question. He said, "Beta, kiska phone tha? Who called?" मैंने कहा, "बाबूजी, Mukesh Bhaiya called to inquire about your health. और कह रहे थे कि if you need any help in Delhi, please let me know." My father just could not believe a person of Mukesh Ambani inquiring about a person's health. He put his hands on मेरे सिर पे रख के बोले, "बेटा, तूने आज मुझे जिता दिया." That was his words. "बेटा, तूने मुझे जिता दिया." That day I saw him. I flew back to Chicago that night. I reached Chicago and I got a call from my younger brother that my father passed away. उनके लिए वो निर्वाण का दिन था. He attained moksha that day when he saw that his son got a calling from Mukesh Ambani acquiring my health. उनके लिए लाइफ में और इससे बड़ी अचीवमेंट नहीं थी. My point to all of you is that we are so blessed, whether it is JITO, Jain, and I say this without any hesitation, our biggest asset is the Jain word, the Jain sanskars, the upbringing we have. And I wish JITO every success, that how we make sure that we don't compromise on Jain values when we do business, because that's what makes us strong. Next, please. Now, so this is human behavior. Now comes human intelligence. We all grew up hearing this word called IQ. IQ is the intelligence quotient. And IQ, I put the word mind. This is where we look at how sharp is someone's mind. People still talk about Einstein. And he was a great intellect without any compromise. And people like that are very rare. We try to do well, and this is what you get through your college education or higher education. You build on your IQ. Then the next word came, and lots of research came when people built this concept called EQ, which is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence to me is part of not just the mind, but the body. By body, emotional intelligence is how you are as a person. Aapki emotions, and emotions I describe in my language. Emotions is the sharpness of the razor. The same razor can cut things and also cut your finger. Emotions can be very powerful, and emotions can also be negative in the sense that if you are driven by negative emotions, it can hurt you. So emotional intelligence is more driven by the way you behave, your body expressions, and so on. But I am more driven by the third part, what I call SQ, which is spiritual intelligence, or you can call the spiritual quotient. And to me, spirituality is your personal integrity, where you stand as a person. And this is something which I think is what we need to make sure when we teach schools. I teach cases. You can make a great business decision, but you should not compromise on your business values. So I just thought I will just share a small story with you here, which is well known in the history, but I just want to tell you why I'm sharing this with you. All of us have heard the name George Bernard Shaw. So I just read the verbatim. George Bernard Shaw, the famous playwright and social thinker, reportedly once claimed that while on an ocean voyage, he met a celebrated actress on the deck and asked her whether she would be willing to sleep with him for $1 million. She was agreeable. He followed with a counter proposal. What about $10? What do you think I am? She responded indignantly. He replied, we have already established that. Now we are just haggling over the price. People within a business world, they claim that life is about trade-offs. Every man or woman in this world is willing to make a trade-off for a certain price. Let me tell you my view. For people who are driven by spiritual intelligence, they would never compromise on their integrity and their basic values. I, as the Dean of Kellogg, when we were rated #1 business school, Business Week had a very big article on me. There was a big celebration and thousands of people and everyone had a glass of champagne. My president of the University of Northwestern came to me and said, Dipak, have a sip. I said, President Beenan, this is not I would compromise. To me, the pleasure is coming from seeing all of you enjoying. I would have my glass of water and that would give me more pleasure than even tasting a sip of that. My point about spiritual intelligence is something that is there where we should never compromise, no matter how good your business deal is. In the long run, that is what touches your soul. And if you look at mind, body, and soul, in तीनों का combination in between, the word that I use is values, but to me, the right word is the sanskars. Next, please. So now it comes to how we apply these business values in our life. So as I said that I like to apply it to the institutions, I am there. So first one. So as I described, when I came to Kellogg, I described the brand of Kellogg as from success to significance. Life is about making a difference. Now, lots of students told me, Professor, the world is so big. How can I make a difference? I have a saying, to the world, you may be a person, but to a person, you can be the world. Life is not about making a difference in the whole world. As an entrepreneur, as a spiritual entrepreneur, find one person that you can change. I had the blessing, somebody gave me a letter. I one day received a letter from a professor of US in Tejpur. Dipak, I read some of your work. Would you like to come and do a PhD in Dallas, Texas? All of a sudden, kabhi socha bhi nahi tha. What I mean is, we should very much think about who we are. And to me, the first part is you're building yourself. So when I said that journey is from success to significance, I tell, don't think that you have to change the whole world. start with one person and start building. I have a saying that the elevator of success is out of order. Take the stairs one step at a time. There is no sense of rush. Next. The business school, when I went to INSEAD, it's a European school. They had this branding called Business School for the World. I thought for the world is very vague. So let me tell you what I wanted to change. I could not do it because I had to leave because of my illness. My theme was, next please. Next line. Something got stuck. Next line.
Suraj or
okay.
It's going from my side. I can see the change in the slide. Rajeshji, can you see?
Okay, I will tell you what the line is. The line is business school for a better world. I said that we should not be a business school for the world, but business school for a better world. And a better world means the world which is driven by spirituality. And again, by spirituality, I mean creating better human beings. Can you go further or not? Then I will just speak. Now comes to the school called CIBS, where I am today, CIBS. And here, the brand of CIBS, I said, we are a business school in China. People come here to learn about China. So the branding I created, which everyone liked, is China Essence, Global Significance. Our core essence is China, but we want to make a difference in the world. What I mean to tell you is, at the heart, essence is, जब आप नींबू निचोड़ते हैं, तो जो नींबू का रस है, that is the key essence. That is something you cannot compromise on. That is your brand. That is who you are. And then comes a question about what you can do with it. The last transparency. So what is global leadership? To me, humanizing business by recognizing that people are the only source of differentiation and value creation. Dekhiye, when people say you need to be very competent, my success in life has come from two words: mutual respect and trust. Competencies can be outsourced. Trust cannot be outsourced. So many leaders in this world, when they appoint someone as their deputy, the deputy they appoint is someone that they have 1000% trust. Earning trust of people only comes not only just with your IQ. You need to be a better person, EQ, but I tell you, people can also use, in Western world, they don't know what spirituality or that much is, but they can say whether this guy's intentions are correct. Life is about your core intentions. What are the intentions that are driving you towards excellence? And when I was picked by Dean Jacobs to be his deputy dean, and I tell you, this is very rarely, I was never a head of the department. And I tell you, you all see me, I am as Indian as anyone can be. अभी भी जब लोगों से बात करता हूँ तो पहले हिंदी भाषा आती है, बाद में अंग्रेजी आती है. I never had the pleasure to study in an English medium school in India. My father could not afford the tuition. So we went to Hindi Rashtra Bhasha Vidyalaya. In 6th grade, they started teaching English. In 7th grade, we had a course called English translation, Hindi to English translation. In the exam, there was a question called Ek Raja Tha, translate in English. My translation was Ek is a king was. I didn't know how to, where the word there was a king would come. I got a slap from my teacher. Bola बेवकूफ तुझे नहीं मालूम कि राजा था कि there was a king. I said, Professor, teacher, ये there कहाँ से आया? Ek is a, Raja is king. This is what I did. The point I want to make is your training, there is there. When Dean Jacobs picked me to be his deputy dean in 1996, I was 36, 37 years old. He believed in me and he thought, Dipak, one day I want you to become the dean of this school. You have to work hard to earn the respect and trust of the people. My point to all of you in this audience today is that when we think of spirituality and business, never compromise on what you stand for. Your people working for you would recognize that. They see the sincerity in you and they would believe in you. मैं हमेशा कहता हूं कि no challenge ahead of you is greater than the force behind you. हमारे पीछे जो force है, those are our Jain sanskar, Jain values, the people you work with, people who are your deputies, they all will be with you. Our role is to make sure that we become the role model. There are very few people in life who got to be the head of the top school in US, the top school in Europe, and then Shanghai, the school in the world, in the Financial Times ranking of the top 5 schools, we are number 5. But the 2 schools ahead of us are Kellogg and INSEAD. And I had the pleasure of being deans of these 2 schools. My only point to all my students that I teach, in the last lecture, I use one sentence and I tell them, what I would not like to hear about you in future is the following statement. As a professional, nobody could touch you. As a person, nobody would touch you. अच्छे इंसान बनो. Learn the respect of people and कभी भी बड़ा छोटा मत सोचो. मेरी माँ पढ़ी लिखी नहीं थी. She used to say, बेटा, जब आम पकता है तो झुक जाता है. That means a ripe mango bends down. Unripe mangoes stand erect. Insecure people would always act tough. People who are secured and accomplishment, they will make themselves more accessible to the common people. So in Jain Dharma, my last statement today is 2 things I would never compromise in. One is the art of forgiveness, and the second is the practice of humility. Once a teacher asked a question in a class, can someone define what is forgiveness? There was a pin drop silence. Then a boy stood up and he said, teacher, forgiveness is the fragrance a flower gives after being crushed. कोई आदमी आप पे कितना ही गुस्सा हो जो you need to bless the person rather than getting angry. Angry to me is a quality of the weak people. Brave people don't get angry. And same thing is, no matter how high you go in life, make yourself accessible. I want to thank all of you for asking me to be with you today. And I want to say Dipak Jain is always behind you. I wish all people get the platform I got. And if a boy who grew up in Tejpur, when somebody translated, ek raja tha to ek king was, and then you become the head in an English-speaking country, this is all the recognition and the reward I received from the blessings of people all over the world. The kind of tumor I had, I survived. Today I am having all the side effects. All the medications I took have affected my bone joints. So both my hips and knees are not working. I have replaced my right hip. I have replaced my left knee. Over time, I may become a person from a metal stage. So long as the brain is there, I hope I can do more for the Jain community and for people all over the world. Thank you all. And I look forward to many more such interactions. And my message to all the youngsters is, there is no substitute to hard work. There is nothing called luck in life. Luck is what you are born with, and what you make with your living is what your efforts are. Put your best efforts, earn the respect and trust of people. Sky is the limit for you. Thank you. Jai Jinendra. Sorry, I took more time. I don't know what the timing was. Sorry.
The timing was absolutely perfect. Aapko, we wish you khub sata, especially explaining your healthy journey. Really grateful for what you've said. And whilst people, I'm sure there's many questions. This is a rare opportunity. Just before we move on to the questions, one thing you mentioned is because setting up an organization in UK without anything at all is a challenge. but at the same time, you just mentioned the force behind it is greater than the challenge. And
Ahead of you. Yes.
yes, then the challenge ahead of us. So I'd like to
Yes.
talk about a couple people who supported us so much.
Very
One
good.
is Divyesh Kamdar, Comline Company. They have been our sponsors. And it's
Wonderful.
not just the
Thank
financial
you.
support. Yeah, it's not just his financial support, but also the guidance. Is a business icon for UK. He's always been there where he can, and always been there to support. Same as Tushar was mentioning and Pragnaben was mentioning before. So these are the forces for JITO.
Were very nice.
And unfortunately, he's really apologetic that he could not.
कोई बात नहीं.
Way he would have done deviation. I would have asked him to share something. The second person I'd like, the second person I'd like to say thank you to is Bharat Bhai Shah of Sigma. Again, a business icon in UK. Bharat Bhai himself is extremely supportive to communities. He is our sponsor, webinar sponsor. I've seen Bharat Bhai here. If I may invite him to say a couple words, and then we'll move to question and answers.
Very good. I would like to convey my sincere gratitude to him.
Thank you. Bharat Bhai, can you unmute and say a couple words if you may?
Yes, can you hear me, Kiran?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kiran. Thank you, our speaker today, Dipak Bhai, Kiran Bhai, Manoj Bhai Malu, Rajesh Bhai Jain. Thank you all for, on behalf of my family, I thank you all to give us this chance to be one of the sponsors of this amazing webinar and talk. I really congratulate the entire JITO committee for this initiative. Shortly, my sincere request to all the guests watching this event to support JITO, not only by becoming members of JITO, but to support such events in the future. JITO is an amazing business networking group, not only in the UK, but worldwide. Thank you again, Kiran and everybody. Thank you very much.
Just want to add, we are very soon going to open the JITO chapter in Chicago.
Oh, very
next
good.
month.
Excellent.
Yes, we are going to open the Prem Jain and others are coming, and they are opening a chapter here.
Dipak ji, actually, thank you, Bharat Bhai. Thank you very much for your kind words. Dipak ji, actually, I've just seen Prem Jain on the participants list. Prem Jain is the chairman of JITO in USA. If Prem Jain,
Yes.
you are here and you can unmute, would welcome a couple comments. Premji, are you here?
I don't think so.
I saw his name. Okay.
Yeah, this Prem Jain is not the same one from Chicago. I am from UK.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Thank you very much.
This Prem Jain is from San Francisco. He used to work for Cisco.
Yes,
and now he started many on his own organization. A great supporter and a man with a very big heart.
Yes.
बहुत नेक इंसान है.
Excellent. Thank you, Dipak ji. Okay, Rajesh, I'll pass it to you and Ashish for question and answer, please.
Yeah. Doctor, I wanted to ask you a very simple question. I have learned all my life, the business schools teach how to make more and more profit.
Yes.
Business schools of late then started talking about their resources, the people. Then we started working and bothering about the environment. When do you think a time will come when the companies will be assessed based on their spiritual quotient? You said in terms of persons, yes, you talk about personal integrity, you talk about self-respect.
Yes.
But do you think it's soon going to be the rating based on the spiritual quotient of the organizations which will drive the business?
My answer is yes, and I tell you why. Earlier, companies used to hire people on IQ. And once the emotional intelligence came very much, how did emotional intelligence got embedded in business schools? We don't admit students just based on their records, their GMAT score, their their GP and others, we started interviewing people. And in the interview process, you get a sense of how is he or she as a person. So you get an assessment of the person's emotional intelligence through interacting with people. That is now very important in all business schools. At Kellogg, we would never admit a student if somebody is not going to interview, and the interview may be even digitally. Today, since we can't do that, it's only a matter of time. Right now, this field is so new, we need to create the right metrics. How do you measure it? How do you assess it? And this is something that I have taken as one of the jobs that I want to do. Can we come up with some simple way to measure what is the person's integrity? And that comes, I tell you how it would come. You create some small exercises where you give to students to do and see where does this student is willing to compromise and on what dimension the student is not willing to compromise. And that comes from not just from the mind or the heart, it comes from the soul. And that is, I think, is the next step where people would start looking at. And I am very, very positive that with the young generation, you call them Generation Y or Generation Z, whatever it is, these are people, when I look at my children, I tell them the same thing. Any occasion I get to speak, I tell people, you have a person in front of you. It is not your looks. It's not how well you speak. I don't have a good accent. But you have to me, spiritual quotient is earning the trust of the people.
Absolutely right. Very true.
That is to me the key essence. देखिए कितना ही डिजिटल वर्ल्ड आ जाए, मशीन्स काम करेंगी, रोबोट्स काम करेंगी, but there is no replacement. The responsibilities of human beings would move from managing machines to managing people. But I don't think ever human beings are going to be replaced. And I just give you one small example. A lot of people request me for something, ki, Dipak, I want to work for Reliance. So there was a person, मैं मुकेश भैया के पास गया, मैंने भैया ये एक लड़का है. So he asked me one question. He says, Dipak, is he trustworthy? एक ही word. He didn't even look at the resume. I said, भैया अगर वो trustworthy नहीं होगा तो मैं आपके पास उसका नाम क्यों लाऊंगा? बोले ठीक है, उसको अपॉइंटमेंट लेटर दे दो. तुमने कह दिया? मैंने बोला भाई एक आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है, उसकी लाइफ में it would be a very big feather in his cap. He says, I got 5 minutes with Mr. Mukesh Ambani. आप एक बार जस्ट उससे मिल के देख लो, and then I will do the rest of the work. What I mean to say you is, ये जो word hai, I always say that competencies can be outsourced, trust cannot be outsourced.
Absolutely.
And this is to me driven by spirituality, spirit. ये spirit है, ये बनावटी चीज नहीं है. You can make it for some time. But मेरे father एक बात कहते थे, बेटा हर इंसान अनाज खाता है. Never underestimate someone's intelligence. He may not be able to speak, he may not know English, but he has perception. And this is what Mahapragya ji, when I met him, his word to me about wisdom world is how you create such people. From knowledge to wisdom is the journey of the wisdom world. Colleges, universities are all full of knowledge. उसके ऊपर काम करना है.
बिल्कुल सही है सर. Thank you so much. आशीष जी. आशीष भाई पटानी.
Hello, Dipak bhai, thank you so much for your inspirational talk. It was really insightful. We've got a few questions here, and
yes, please.
Someone's asking, is there a new shift emerging which is inherent to human nature, the desire for more independence and self-determination? And will that actually lead to greater disparity between areas where there is resource and areas without resource? What would be
very,
your
very
view?
good question. Very, very good question. So let me answer it in stages. The first is independence is becoming more important. And by independence, I also mean freedom to act. But freedom is not mean completely chaotic freedom. Freedom between the boundaries or between the boundaries of the principles or values of the organization. The young generation today have three things: entrepreneurial spirit, innovative mindset, and digital thinking. अब वो कागज पेंसिल पे लिखने का उनको शौक नहीं है. In fact, one very bad thing that is happening today is my children, etc., unki handwriting is so bad because they don't know how to write. Everything is all on the computer and others. एक अच्छा sentence नहीं लिख सकते हैं और वो broken English में लिखेंगे और लिखाई भी खराब है. Now, whatever it is, so when you have entrepreneurial spirit, innovative thinking, and innovative mindset and digital thinking, you need to create a sense of freedom, or what I mean is reverse mentoring. Mentoring होता है बड़े छोटों का. Today you have to learn from the younger generation how you build the institutions of the future. This is step one. Now, when you say about economic disparity, I don't believe that, because the young generation is not driven just by self-promotion or profits. The young generation has a sense of purpose. I see that. I have been teaching. When I meet the young people, you ask my wife, मैं हमेशा क्लास पढ़ा के आता हूँ, कहता हूँ मुझे आज बड़ी खुशहाली है कि जिस बच्चों के दिमाग में ये था कि Professor Jain, I do quite a lot of work for different parts of the world. So they would say, Professor Jain, how can I support you? Abhi, just to give an example, when I left, I went for a fundraising trip. And this person was the number 2 person at Goldman Sachs. He was a Kellogg graduate. I wanted to ask him some money. So he asked me, where are you from? So I said that I am from India, from Assam. He says, Assam, do you know Bangladesh? I said, yes, Bangladesh is our neighbor. He said, they don't sit next to me. Go and sit next to my wife. I said, why? Because his wife was involved in setting up a university in Bangladesh called AUW, Asian University for Women. And she said that, Dipak, would you help us establish this university? Because our belief is that if you let the Muslim women empowered with education, they won't send their children to these religious schools. So after I left Kellogg, I made several trips to Bangladesh. This is a full-fledged university there. My point is, when we do things like this, we are driving towards more reducing the gap of disparity as opposed to increasing. And I don't believe that this approach of freedom or freeness would create disparity. What we need is delegation. What I mean is give them the power to do things. अभी भी हम लोग सोचते हैं बच्चे हैं नालायक हैं इनको समझ नहीं है. They have more intelligence and more wisdom than even we have. So I want to repeat, these are just like a sharp razor, as I said, these are people driven by good emotions. Let the emotions be driven towards strength and towards a good purpose. That is the role of people like us.
I have got another related question, Professor Jain, from Mr. Vaibhav Haria. He's asking, which is a well-known company which is operating on these principles, where the leader is driven by spiritual values? I can only think of Bob Chapman, CEO of 3 billion global manufacturing firm, Barry Wellmiller, and the author of Everybody Matters. So I think it's again relates to the same thing. Do we have examples wherein industries are now?
So spiritual driven is with the people there. When Bill Gates started this thing, people didn't think that he was spiritual or anything, but if you look at his work today, same thing about, I had a chance in 1998 to spend some time with Bill Gates. He came to Kellogg School. I was in the dean's office. At that time, he was completely driven by share price. Every week, Microsoft was doubling and all those things. You look at Mark Zuckerberg, and I am in China and I see Jack Ma also when he left the job because he wants to do more for the common people. So what I see among corporations today is we are at a very early stage of spirituality and business. Just like entrepreneurship and business came in the 90s, when people started, I remember I used to tell companies that every Friday, the new MBS you hire, Friday ko dopair se 2 se 4 baje, bring this MBS and ask them if they were today in this company, what could they have done differently?
Yeah.
What new products they would bring. Create this culture of people to speak up. That is to me something that the seniors should encourage. Main thing is about changing the culture of the company, the DNA of the company. Today, Satya Nadella is doing the same thing at Microsoft, which didn't happen at all in this whole regime of Steve Ballmer. I did a lot of work for Steve Ballmer. Every month I had a 15 minutes meeting with him. In 15 minutes, 14.7 minutes, he would only tell me, he had no idea whether to hear from me, but this is what his style was. So I think people are building that. Microsoft is at a very different level today than what it was for 10 years under the previous, not to complain about the previous regime. It's about leadership. It's about the values of the leader. And also one more thing is a culture of inclusiveness. How you include other people. And secured people create team spirit. Insecure people would be like a dictator. And dictator means you don't trust your subordinates. Secured people would trust people, create a team, give them delegation, give them authorities to do something. That is what I think many companies are doing. And I still tell you, US is far better than many countries in the world. I was the dean of Kellogg. I had 2 deputies. मैंने उनको कह रखा था जो काम करना है, only have one question when you take a decision. Is it in the best interest of the Kellogg School? If the answer is yes, go ahead and I will defend you. But don't bring your personal interest or someone's interest in this thing. Institutions are always above individuals. There is no compromise there.
Very true.
Thank you, Dipak. And we also have another question here. In the digital world with artificial intelligence and machine learning taking over many tasks and output, could there be a bias and exploitation of the results? And how can we prevent this, especially in light of the spiritual entrepreneurship you spoke about?
Again, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and IoT, Internet of Things, they are creating efficiency in the system. The key word there is they are doing tasks that human beings used to do, but now we can let them do and use the human beings for more effective communication. My last line today was that people are the only source of differentiation and value creation. Artificial intelligence, machine learning would create efficiency in the organization. They may create effectiveness, but they are not going to create competitive edge. The competitive edge is going to come from human beings.
Yeah.
And so what is changing is our roles and responsibilities, and more decision-making would come. That's why in many business school, the first course that we teach, now a lot of courses can be taught online. Any course that is well-structured. So when people ask me, what do you teach in a business schools? I tell them, we teach our students how you put structure on unstructured problems. Education is about structured thinking. Now, courses that are all well-structured, statistics, microeconomics, financial accounting, managerial accounting, yes, a rules process-based, they can be taught online. The first course in MBA program today is a course called Critical Thinking, where you harness the power of human intuition. And in that process, you harness spirituality, and spirituality to me is personal integrity, personal self-ethics. Is this guy going to compromise on that? And not everyone would do that, but in the class, you can see at least 1 or 2 people would come with that level. Now it is the role of the teacher, how much importance you pay to that part in the overall decision what the company should do. So we are in the very early stage, but I can rest assure you, the process has started. The question is the acceleration, the speed.
Excellent explanation. Excellent explanation, sir. So nice of you.
Thank
I
you.
think keeping an eye on the
So
clock.
Rajesh, if there are questions for people, tell them they can send the questions to me directly and I can just respond to them.
That would
Give
be
them
fantastic.
give them my email address, dipakcjain@gmail.com, and I write Dipak but D-I-P-A-K, not D-E-E. So उनको बोलिए जिनका कोई question है, I would be more than happy to respond.
Fantastic. That's a great help to us. Thank you so much for your time. I would request our secretary, Dr. Manoj Malu, to kindly say a few words. Dr. Malu, please.
जय जिनेंद्र, डॉक्टर जैन आपको प्रणाम,
आपको भी
ऑडियंस को प्रणाम, और in fact I'm speechless, and normally I don't stop talking when I get a chance. I will capture the essence of this talk and the level of spiritual growth which you have reached, the personal growth, by the incidents you narrated, that you flew once a month to see your father, for years to see him.
122 ट्रिप इंडिया के बनाए थे. Every air hostess knows me and every pilot knows me कि उसी फ्लाइट में जाता था, वापस आता था.
And for me, that is the culmination of growth in every dimension, not just spiritual. The words you have uttered, the narratives you have given, the incidences you have mentioned, they have inspired me, and I'm sure they have touched the heart of so many of the audience here as well as on YouTube. Really, truly grateful to you, sir, for sparing your time. And I can see, coming from Bihar, I could see some of the parallels in our lives. Learning English at the age 8. There was a moments I had in my life.
देर कहाँ से आया मुझे समझ में नहीं आया. टीचर ने एक चाटा मारा कि क्या बेवकूफ हो. मैंने बोला.
Also on this Teachers' Day today, to talk about Acharya Mahapragya ji and talk about the Jain principles, amazing chemistry that you have built up. In the audience, we have got some very learned people from across the world, and I'm grateful for all of them to spare the time on this Saturday. And जो हिंदी में बोलते हैं आपने बहुत शोभा बढ़ाई इस occasion.
नहीं, आज Teachers' Day है. And let me just tell you, teaching is something I never considered as a profession. Teaching is something I worship. मेरे father अंधे थे. Classroom में जाना is my Shraddhanjali to him.
Excellent.
Correct. And finally, I'm very grateful for all the Jain organizations in the UK, particularly Oswald Association UK, Jain Viswa Bharati, who have been who have organized this program together with JITO UK. That is also to acknowledge virtually every other Jain organization in the UK has been absolutely supportive to efforts of JITO, including the event today. I'm equally grateful for our sponsors, Bharat Bhai, and as earlier Dr. Kiran Bhai mentioned, very grateful. And finally, our next program is Rajesh Bhai, would you please give the slide for the next program?
Yeah, let me get that slide for you.
Yeah.
Manoj, while she's doing that, if I can ask each board member to unmute and just introduce yourself once Manoj is finished.
Very good idea. Very good idea.
There's a lot of work goes behind the scenes, and not everyone is visible today.
All that I'll say is that our next event is on Saturday, 10th of October, with Vimal Shah, Chairman of BITCO Africa. And he is again great, speaker and worth listening to. But of course, we will distribute the information about this in near future. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was great to have you all on this session. My sincere thanks once again to Dr. Dipak Jain. And one more last thing which I would like to add. Whenever I spoke to him, I never felt that I was speaking to Professor Dipak Jain. अरे हाँ बोलो भाई राजेश, क्या करना है? अच्छा, अरे चिंता मत करो, मेरे पास खूब टाइम है. We come from that business ground that we are talking to a managing director and the chairman of the company, and then he will ask 10 different questions. अच्छा, फिर मैंने कहा सर आप हाँ मैं 15 मिनट पहले ज्वाइन कर लूंगा, आप चिंता क्यों कर रहे हो? I felt so homely. I felt as if, yes, this is the biggest ease I would have ever faced in my 30 years of professional life, the comfort which he extended. And that's when I really appreciate when he said, it is not, today you get so many intelligent people in the industry, but people which are having the highest value are the people who can be trusted. Sir?
Hey, I have a question. Could you give Dr. telephone number before that?
क्या जी? सुनाई नहीं दिया.
What's the telephone number?
I will pass it on to you, Dr. Ilaben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
जैन साहब आप कुछ बोल रहे थे?
नहीं, मुझे समझ में नहीं आया वो क्या पूछ रही थी, तो मैंने बोला क्या है, उनको क्या चाहिए.
कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर भेजने के लिए बोला उन्होंने.
हाँ, बिल्कुल उनको मेरा व्हाट्सएप का आपके पास है, भेज दीजिए.
I have so many things waiting for to be marketed, and therefore I would like help of him.
Sure.
I have got granted patents in UK and America, but there is no support from anywhere.
I'll definitely pass on the contact details to you.
My patent can be useful for COVID people also. So I need support, like a big company like a Reliance or anyone. He can introduce me to good company, because other people like here, were just putting here their messages, so it was disturbance. We can't communicate better way. So please give me telephone number and I will talk to him. And I'm also waiting. I'm also Jain, and I would like to be helpful to community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I just ask, Rajesh ji, can I just ask each board members to just quickly introduce yourselves? This is great platform.
Yeah,
Nimish?
Jai Jinendra, Dipak ji, wonderful talk, very inspiring. You remind me of somebody who has achieved so much, and you are very confident in talking about the achievement. And as Rajesh ji explained, that even in your talking about the achievement, you give comfort to other people and you lift them up. And that is just the most amazing quality. And I'm very happy that you agreed to give this little talk for JITO. I'm the co-chair. I'm based in London. I would like to ask you one question. On the spirituality in India, we typically have the guru system. You as you become a certain age, you find a guru, and then you go more to the ashram, and you spend more time in satsang and on all these things. Do you feel that system, we need to embrace that more at a younger age, or do you feel that the system needs to evolve a little bit with the modern world?
देखिए, there is no such thing as the right time to do well. It's to me, जैसे आप बिलीव नहीं करोगे, शाम को हमारे 3 बच्चे हैं, छोटी उम्र से मेरा एक रूल था घर में कि सब शाम को भगवान की आरती करेंगे. ये you have to put these things early in life, because every day is very precious. Satsang to me is a very important concept. At least मैं उनको हमारे जैन शास्त्र की 2 लाइन सुनाता हूँ, और I put the 2 lines in the form of a story, because the story they would remember, वो lines नहीं है. How you communicate in the satsang to the young generation, you should be customer centric, जो उनको अच्छा लगे. And that is the art we need to build, and the earlier you do is better. क्योंकि इसके लिए कोई right timing नहीं है. Whenever you are ready, मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ, the child is always ready. It is the readiness of the teacher to convey the message in the way the child can appreciate and comprehend.
Jain sab, when you talked about teacher, हमारे टीचर यहाँ पे समनी जी हैं। समनी जी 2 शब्द
हाँ।
कहना चाहते हैं।
बहुत जरूर। मैं तो मुझे तो मेरी पहली मीटिंग चरित प्रतिज्ञा जी के साथ थी फ्लोरिडा में, जब हमने वो जैन प्रोफेसरशिप शुरू की। उन्होंने मुझे कहा कि दीपक साहब मुझे आपका सपोर्ट चाहिए।
या समनी जी प्लीज।
Om Arham. First of all, I pay my respect to Gurudev Sri Mahashamanji, and I really rejoiced that it is a centenary year of Acharya Mahapragya ji.
Bilkul.
And Dipak ji, you made a big impact of Jainism at Florida International University, and still some Nijis are carrying that teaching line to the, like Jainism is alive in many other universities, and now I think America is taking lead in spreading the Jain messages. So
yes,
it is really a great visionary people not teaching on the business school, but taking Jainism in front line. So today, in that context, I would like to say my heartfelt thanks to Dipak ji. And Professor Dipak ji has also a good relationship with Jain Vishwa Bharati, and he rejoiced the picture, which is, I think, for us worth millions and millions. And the concept of wisdom world, as soon as you show your presentation, I shared with Surendraji Choraria, that time president of Jain Vishwa Bharati, and he says, this is the man who has that image, because Acharya Mahapragya given the seedling of wisdom world in Professor Dipak Jain's brain. So it is your brain, a fertile brain, and we all are hopeful, and we would like to thank you from the bottom of our heart, that really your Jain sanskara, the family legacy, that legacy is not money, but sanskara. And those sanskara, I'm happy to hear that you passed on also in a way to your alumni and to your family. And I got opportunity to be there in Tejpur, and your sisters are like very close to us for 4-6 months. My Chatumas Reni retreat in Tejpur. And I got many other opportunity to hear you time to time. So it is really a great power, because money is power, but upon that, your experience is the valuable asset for the Jain Samaj and wider humanity. So I hope that there would be a sprout in the wisdom world concept.
जरूर करेंगे, करना है मुझे, वो मेरी मॉरल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है। चलिए फिर।
Can I just ask the other board members, please? Yeah. Thank you, Samni ji. Girish, are you there? Sulabh?
Yeah, Jai Jinendra, Dipak ji, thank you so much for today's talk. You come across as a very relatable person, and the examples you've given from your life is something that all of us can associate with. What it is, it's not just about what you have taught us today, but also as you as a person, what we really is a good example for me and everybody else. That even after reaching all the height, you can come across as somebody very humble on the ground, and somebody that everybody feel free to to approach to. So thanks so much for that.
Thank you. Malaji, are you there? Malasha? Girish? Thank you, Sulabh. Any other board members, please unmute and introduce, and then we'll close it. Rajesh,
Yes.
Rajesh, Ashish, we can close after that, please.
Hi, this is Sangeeta.
Oh, Sangeeta, hi.
Hi. I just want to say it's been a very inspirational talk.
Thank you.
I'm a JITO board member. I just wanted to say to Dipak ji, very inspirational talk. I was particularly, what resonated most with me was the fact how he looks upon the next generation, that we should be learning something from them rather than, all the time I just feel people are saying, "Usko kuch nahi aata hai." वो लोग जो हमारी संस्कृति है, उसको follow नहीं करते हैं. What I find is they actually are more true Jains than we are, because they believe from the heart and they follow it from the heart, rather than because their parents are telling them to do it. And that really resonates. I just wanted to ask, would it not make life easier for deans or people who are teaching at business school levels if only these sort of things were taught to kids when they are at primary school and enhanced at that point? Because I think that is where our generation has failed them.
See, मेरे फादर एक कहते थे कि बेटा मेरे पास तुमको देने के लिए कुछ नहीं है, बट भगवान का आशीर्वाद है, ये तुम्हारे साथ हमेशा रहेगा. बस वो जो ब्लेसिंग्स हैं वो मेरे साथ हमेशा हैं, मेरे टीचर्स की, मेरे पेरेंट्स की, फ्रेंड्स की, एंड दैट्स माय इंस्पिरेशन. और तो मेरे पास क्या है?
Very nice of you. We learned a lot today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dipak ji. I'm one of the other board members. Kiran bhai, thanks for the opportunity to speak here. One of the things that resonated very firmly was about how you mentioned about the satsang, how the things about kids that you have to instill very early in the age. I think the whole thinking around those things have a different level to it. And there's lots of talk, lot of takeaways from your talk today. And I think the best thing is you've also established a contact. You have shared your email ID and your whole humbleness around reaching out to you. I think we as JITO UK, all members here and all the audiences are looking forward to it. And I'm sure you will get a lot of emails from us.
Thank you.
And we are looking forward to be in touch with you, Dr. Dipak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Or get nahi, I have to wrap up. I have a talk at 10 o'clock. Mere time.
Good. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Rajesh, Ashish, please close now. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Suraj, can you close that? Leave the meeting. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
Thanks
everyone.
a lot once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone.